We've discussed the doom and gloom of emotional eating, but I wanted to now discuss a few options that we have in ways of treating emotional eating. These 3 approaches have been shown to help people who suffer with emotional eating. The first one, something I talk about an awful lot, which is mindfulness. Learning to harbour a non-judgmental state of being, a state of awareness of one's thoughts and feelings, and being in the here and now. Number 2 is improving our emotion regulation. Essentially, it's learning to understand the function of our emotions, the action urge that accompanies each emotion, and whether to heed or oppose those urges. And number 3, distress tolerance. This is a skill we need to develop when we're in a position where it's either very difficult to change a situation or it's impossible to change a situation. And like I said in an earlier video, one of the last things you want to do if emotional eating is something you severely struggle with is go on a highly restrictive diet. That is the last thing you need to do if your weight issues or your health issues stem from emotional eating or it's part of the problem. You should not go on a highly restrictive diet. What you do need to do is work on emotional regulation and learning how to control our emotions and understand our emotions so we're no longer at the whim of how we feel. So when wanting to deal with emotional eating and improve our responses to it and ideally not suffer from it anymore, we have to remember that it's mainly predominantly a side effect of stress. So heightened stress or chronic stress leads to people emotionally eating. If we look at combating what stresses us and how we deal with stress, that can have a huge impact on the amount, or even if we do, emotionally eat in the first place. Here are some really easy and simple things that we can start doing today to help alleviate our emotional eating. Exercise. I talk about it all the time. I know it's obvious, but exercising can really help alleviate stress whilst also keeping our body and brain healthy. So you've got a double win there in terms of being able to combat emotional eating. Number 2, meditating. I talk about this an awful lot too, but meditating helps us calm down our brain, helps calm down stress levels. So if we remember that emotional eating is triggered by stress and we don't want to emotionally eat, then we need to lower and control our stress levels. Exercising is a great way and meditating is a great way. This should go without saying, but reducing things that cause us further stress, like drugs and alcohol, they are things that we need to hopefully reduce completely and remove, but at the very least we need to be very mindful of reducing them as much as possible to alleviate our stress. Drinking and doing drugs doesn't stop you feeling stress, it just distracts you, which if you remember is part of the problem with emotional eating, is you're being distracted from how you feel, not dealing with how you feel. And another big thing that we need to do if we suffer with emotional eating is spending the time and the energy to figure out what our triggers are. What causes us to have a heightened period of stress so that we then end up going and eating emotionally. If we aren't aware of what the triggers are, we can't remove them from our life or be prepared on how to combat that trigger if it's something that's unavoidable. For a lot of the people I've worked with and had great success with helping them lose weight and get fit, get healthy in a sustainable long-term way, it's actually meant that we've not just had to change their diet and get them moving more, but we've actually had to deal with what causes them stress. We've had to look at what is the trigger for them to have a bad reaction to an event in their life, and then as a result of that, they turn to food for comfort or alcohol. So if we don't deal with our causes of our stress, what causes that trigger, we aren't going to make long-term progress. We may lose weight in the short term, but we're more than likely to put the weight back on if we don't deal with the root cause of the stress. Hopefully you found this video on emotional eating helpful and insightful. And if you think you might be someone who struggles with emotional eating and it's been something you've never really been able to get over or get through and make progress with your health and weight, then feel free to comment below or direct message me or email me, and I'll be more than happy to see if I can help.